Today I'm going to show you an action thriller film from 2010, titled Revenge, a love story. Be ready for spoilers ahead. The film kicks off with a young guy named Chan who sells steamed buns near the high school every day. One morning, a grandma and her granddaughter, Wen, bought buns from Chan. It became clear that Chan was smitten with Wen at first glance. However, the grandma got irritated with Chan for continuously gazing at her granddaughter. From that moment, Chan made it a routine to catch glimpses of Wen in the neighborhood where she attended school. One night, Chan accidentally spotted the grandma searching for Wen since she hadn't returned home since noon. Learning this, Chan took the initiative to search the village for her. After a thorough search, he eventually found Wen, who had gotten lost near the hill. Chan promptly brought her back to her grandma. It turned out that Wen had a mental disability causing her to often forget her way home and behave a bit unusually. However, Chan's affection for her remained unaffected, as his love for Wen was genuine. After several days of not seeing Wen and her grandma, Chan grew curious about their whereabouts. Upon finishing his sales, he decided to visit Wen's house. To his surprise, a crowd, including the police and social services, had gathered in front of Wen's house. It was revealed that Wen's grandmother had passed away 3 days ago, and Wen was found lying next to her lifeless body. Concerns about Wen's deteriorating mental state arose, leading authorities to consider admitting her to a mental hospital. Later that evening, Chan secretly visited the hospital where Wen was receiving treatment. Fortunately, Wen's room was located at the back of the hospital, making it simple for Chan to whisk her away. He took Wen to the kids' park in an attempt to calm her down. During this moment, it became evident that Wen also harbored feelings for Chan. Once Wen had calmed, Chan drove her back to her apartment. Unfortunately, they discovered that the police still had the apartment locked. As Chan contemplated breaking in, a neighbor from Wen's apartment emerged. This neighbor, feeling compassion for Wen, invited her into her own room. Inside the apartment, the neighbor informed them that she would be away for a few days and offered Wen and Chan the opportunity to stay in her apartment during her absence. It turns out that the woman was a prostitute who often wandered off. She even allowed Chan to do whatever he wanted. After she left, Chan accidentally saw Wen taking a shower, but he didn't think anything dirty. Instead, he chose to go out to look for food around the apartment. However, the situation took a brutal turn just minutes after Chan departed. Wen, having just finished a shower, heard an unexpected knock on the door. Assuming it was Chan, she hastily opened it, only to find a stranger named David on the doorsteps. Without invitation, David barged in and assumed Wen was a new associate, prompting him to demand money, mistaking her for a prostitute working under the woman who had left. Quickly revealing his perverse intentions, David frightened Wen, who appeared visibly shaken. Luckily, Chan, positioned across the street, had spotted David through the apartment window. Chan rushed back and immediately confronted David, engaging in a fierce altercation that culminated in Chan subduing him. Eventually, Chan and Wen managed to flee the apartment, resolving to report David's actions to the local police. Upon their arrival, they encountered Deputy Chief Jeffo, who instructed Chan to a separate room while planning to interrogate Wen. One of the experienced officers who is aware of Wen's mental condition advised against pressing her further. However, Jeffo and his team proceeded with questioning Wen about the assailant's description. Wen mentioned a distinct detail, a man bearing a star tattoo on his right hand. To their surprise, they realized the identified culprit was none other than David, their own police chief and superior. Meanwhile, David, who had overheard Wen's revelation at the station, summoned his subordinates, including Jeffo, asserting that he mistook Wen for a woman involved in illicit activities and attempted to discipline her. However, facing the reality of his actions, David abruptly silenced everyone and attempted to shift blame onto Chan, accusing him falsely. After a brief interval, David's men intensified their interrogation of Chan. Sensing the danger and recognizing the police's intentions to frame him, Chan spotted a photo of David on a nearby table, realizing the trap set against him. In a swift attempt to escape with Wen, Chan's efforts were thwarted, leading to his capture and subsequent torture. To exacerbate the situation, the police officers did the unthinkable to the woman in turns, right in front of Chan's eyes. They seemed very satisfied with what they had done. Following the incident, the officers fabricated a narrative, claiming that Chan had forcibly taken hold of a police firearm, who is now unconscious. Meanwhile, Wen faced threats and received warnings against speaking out. The authorities vowed to harm Chan if she dared to expose the truth. During the trial, the police officers testified falsely as part of their premeditated scheme. Eventually, they sentenced Chan to 6 months in prison, accusing him of assaulting law enforcement during his incarceration period. 6 months later, after his release from prison, Chan was observed attempting to remove his fingerprints, hinting at a plan he had in mind for the future. As he prepared to leave, anticipating a reunion with Wen, he was overcome with emotion upon seeing her. Sadly, Chan discovered that Wen was now pregnant, a consequence of the traumatic events inflicted by the police officers. The situation weighed heavily on both Chan and Wen, evoking deep distress that anyone would empathize with if placed in their circumstances. Wen was putting on a smile, attempting to help Chan move past the difficult days they had recently faced. They both seemed a bit happier now that they were reunited. However, the haunting memory of the grudge lingered in Chan's heart, and he was determined to seek vengeance for the police officers. Meanwhile, a pregnant woman, identified as the wife of one of the officers, is seen shopping. After shopping, the pregnant woman hurried back home. Shortly afterward, her husband Ting Ji also arrived home and tried calling her. However, at that moment, she was unexpectedly assaulted from behind by Chan. Days later, a police diving team stumbled upon a plastic bag, emitting a strong and unpleasant odor based on reports from the locals. The bag was brought to the police station for examination. When it was opened, the authorities were horrified to discover a mutilated fetus. Additionally, the police found Ting Ji's identification card among the belongings in the bag. Realizing this alarming connection, they promptly rushed to Ting Ji's residence. Upon arrival, the police couldn't locate him initially. Soon after, they were startled once more by the discovery of Ting Ji's deceased body, his wife's body in an advanced state of decomposition, and notably, missing the fetus. This revelation indicated that the fetus found in the river belonged to Ting Ji's wife. Simultaneously, the scene shifted to an elderly policeman who had recently returned from a trip with his young pregnant wife. This older officer was part of the group responsible for assaulting Wen. While the elderly policeman went to fetch some drinks, he was startled upon seeing his wife gazing out of the window. Minutes later, the old policeman attempted to contact one of his colleagues. However, when the call was answered, the policeman remained silent, leading the recipient to suspect that something was amiss within a short span of time. The policeman arrived at his home only to be shocked by a grim sight. The elderly policeman's wife lay dead with her abdomen cut open, mirroring the earlier case. To their horror, they discovered the lifeless body of the elderly policeman in the hot tub. Officer Jeffo began suspecting that Chan might be behind these incidents, seeking vengeance against them. Subsequently, news about the series of killings targeting police officers circulated widely on national television. Law enforcement initiated a thorough search for the culprit, monitoring all vehicles entering and leaving the city. Unfortunately, the bus carrying Chan was intercepted by the authorities. Sensing Jeffo's growing suspicion toward him, Chan, gripped by fear, opted to escape discreetly. However, his attempted escape was short-lived as Jeffo caught up to him, sparking a chase. Eventually, Chan was apprehended by the officers and brought into an interrogation room. Chan endured torture from Jeffo and one of Jeffo's associates in a bid to extract a confession regarding the crimes committed against their fellow officers. Despite the torment, Chan maintained his silence, refusing to admit to anything. Frustrated by Chan's persistent silence, Jeffo contemplated shooting Chan in the head. However, Chan remained resolute in not divulging any information. Meanwhile, Wen was at home when she inadvertently caught the news on TV reporting Chan's arrest on charges of murdering police officers and his family. This news deeply disappointed Wen, as it implied she would once again be separated from her beloved. A few seconds later, Wen contacted the police for an undisclosed reason but abruptly ended the call. Subsequently, Wen proceeded to the bathroom with a clear intention to terminate her own pregnancy using a knife. Then, a few minutes later, she discarded the knife in the water. The scene shifted back to the police station, where Jeffo appeared determined to decisively resolve Chan's situation. Suddenly, a police captain from the headquarters approached Jeffo, visibly upset. The captain conveyed that Jeffo had apprehended the wrong individual because the actual serial killer had just committed a crime against a pregnant woman, Wen. This revelation implied that Wen had purposely orchestrated these events to exonerate Chan from all charges. Subsequently, the captain believed that Jeffo and his team had violated regulations and promptly suspended them. Following this, the captain questioned Chan about his escape from the bus during the police raid. Chan simply responded that it wasn't the first time he had been falsely accused by law enforcement officers. The lack of evidence and Chan's statement ultimately led to his acquittal from all charges. Jeffo's team suggested revealing the truth to the police captain about Chan's grudge against them stemming from past incidents. However, Jeffo adamantly refused, seeing it as a blow to their own pride. Instead, they attempted to reach out to David, the retired police chief. Jeffo briefed David on their plan to swiftly neutralize Chan and Wen. Meanwhile, Chan intended to whisk Wen away from the hospital before any police action could be taken against them. However, just as Chan and Wen were about to depart, Jeffo tried to apprehend them, initiating a chase. Jeff's men simultaneously received instructions to intercept the ambulance that Chan was attempting to use for their escape. Once Jeff's crew located them, they promptly fired shots at them, causing the ambulance to collide with a small gas station. A brawl erupted between the two. Soon after, Jeffo himself arrived and aimed to ram his car into Chan. Luckily, Chan evaded the collision, sparking another chase. Jeffo eventually pinned Chan down and brutally assaulted him. In a desperate moment, Chan stumbled upon an iron plate and used it to fight back fiercely, leading to Jeffo's severe injury. Sadly, Chan falls unconscious due to heavy loss of blood. The following day, the scene unfolded with David, the retired police chief, discovering Wen in an ambulance. Reacting impulsively, David shot the motionless Wen. He then attempted to provoke Chan by firing his gun into the air. Upon hearing the sound of gunfire, Chan abruptly regained consciousness, struggling to approach David, who was determined to end it all then and there. David aimed to swiftly eliminate Chan, but the gun has no bullets in it. He leaves him to his fate, not before mentioning that if Chan survived, he should meet him. The narrative jumps 5 years ahead. David is depicted daydreaming, haunted by guilt for his actions against Wen and Chan. He now resides in another city, dedicating himself to teaching at a school. Additionally, he frequently appears on national TV as a religious figure and charity worker. Meanwhile, Chan, who's still alive, accidentally catches a TV broadcast featuring David. Learning David's whereabouts, Chan decides to settle his lingering grudge. Before confronting David, Chan shaves his head, resembling his appearance from before. In a brief encounter, Chan finds David teaching children to play the piano. David, upon noticing Chan, attempts to reconcile over coffee, urging forgiveness for his past errors. However, consumed by a 5-year-old grudge, Chan remorselessly ends David's life then and there. The movie concludes with Chan continuing his life alongside Wen, who surprisingly survives despite being confined to a wheelchair due to David's past actions. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.